Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Representing from the 27 boxes, brandliveradio.co.za. And yes, brands are talking today. My name is Thando Mangaliso. I'm coming from Sun Goddess, and I do not fly alone. I've got my wonderful and inspirational wife with me, Vanya Mangaliso. What's up, baby?
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, excited, rejuvenated. Can't believe how fast 7 days fly, you know?
Yeah.
You leave here and you think, okay, I've got a week, and then before you know it, the week has just flashed by you know what I mean?
And it's that time of the year, very exciting. We're like smack in the middle of the year. It's gone. It's completely over.
Yep.
Lots of exciting
Yep.
things happening. Tomorrow is June 16. Lots of events happening. There's the Nasrec Youth Expo, which is an exciting opportunity for young kids to go and understand and find out about their careers. There are very many careers.
But not only young people. I think, you know what, the beautiful thing about South Africa is that you are youth until you're 35, and they've got a whole lot of career guidance and applications and, you know, government functions, the arms that fund businesses.
Try the ANC Youth League. I can still.
No, we're past that date. We are past that date. Well into our 40s.
I thought you youth forever.
No. We passed that date. So yeah, you know, I also go on to say, you know, it's one thing for school children to go there, but if there are people who are in business, if there are people, you know, who want to interact with government, the beautiful thing is that
Yes, all the government services are there.
all the government services, people that are funding, people that are giving assistance, people that are just trying to promote the businesses through the government functions and the arms, they are more than welcome to go. I think it would be a shame if people didn't go, you know. And the nice thing is, like I said, there's going to be a beautiful fashion show tomorrow with up-and-coming designers, and the Nasrec thing only ends on the 17th. So, you know, most of us, we don't know what to do. We're rubbing our heads. And the beauty is that it's just 5-10 minutes away from Soweto. So, Soweto, if you're in the house, I think go and make a turn there.
It is actually a great networking opportunity, as you say. You also get to know what is happening in your city, as all the government services, most of the government departments are there, from economic development right down to
CEDA.
to CEDA. We mentioned CEDA specifically because as young designers, one of the things that we are busy with at the moment is just to get them off their feet. And first and foremost are those compliance issues. You know how it goes. At first, all you want to do is just to get to sell your things. Eventually, all these things catch up with you. So it is an exciting opportunity for people to go out there. And it is also Eid. Happy Eid. to
Yes,
everyone.
happy Eid Mubarak. The time of fasting has come to an end, and now the people celebrate Eid. And the new moon was actually yesterday, so today it's Eid, and it's just wonderful, you know.
Yeah. We've had a best Eid ever, our best
Ramadan ever.
'Cause
People ask us, why do we fast? We are not Muslim, by the way. We grew up in Christian households. But our factory happened to be in Fordsburg for about 8 years. And, you know, it's a very inclusive sort of society. So, you know, you arrive there in the morning, you have tea with someone, you have lunch with someone, and you have dinner with someone. So as people who weren't Muslims, when they were fasting, everyone was like down, you know what I mean? So we just decided, okay, you know what, we're part of this community. We need to go through what they are going through, and started on a sympathetic fast. First fast went very, very well. And from here on out, I think I'll probably fast for the rest of my life. I think also the beautiful thing about Ramadan and the Muslim fast is that it's very focused and very scientific.
I think a lot of people do fast. It's just that they don't do it during Ramadan specifically. But I mean, lots of religions fast. And for us, it was just like you say, it was nice to do it as part of the community, to do it with other people. So it's great for, you know, so we do it for spiritual reasons and also just for health reasons, just to have that time. It's, you know, it's pre-winter, a season of austerity. You got to think differently. And I find that when you do pay attention, you know, to things like that, being a little hungry and a little cold tends
To bring the best out of you. I
to
think.
bring the best in you. I mean, it's a silly belief, but I think it is I think it's just important to take stock and regroup, and that's why we do it. And because I get asked a lot, why did you do it? Are you Muslim? Did you abandon your religion?
Ish, people give us a look.
But
Eh?
I
I'm
mean,
fasting during
I learn
Ramadan.
a lot from different religions. I'm a
Spiritual.
I'm a spiritual being trying to navigate my life in this world.
You know
Trying
what?
to be human, a spiritual being trying to be human. So definitely, you learn and you.
For me personally, it's not only does it clear the head, not only does it clear the body, but you begin to understand that as much as we are fasting, at the end of the fast we are able to break our fast. Now there are millions of people out there who are fasting who just don't have the ability. I remember going downtown, going to a mosque, and just seeing some guys who it was the end of the fast, and they just told me straight up, look, we don't know where to break our fast. We're not going to break our fast, but they fast regardless. And it's just that empathy and just understanding that we are not all. Oh, sorry. And we must be grateful for the little that we have. As tough as things are, we must give thanks in everything that we have.
Talking about giving thanks, what was interesting, like on a business tip, it is a show about fashion and business, was how they were talking about how businesses get affected in a place like Dubai during Ramadan.
Yes.
The kind of billions they lose because things tend to slow down. So now what was interesting is they've now decided that they're going full on.
Yes.
Around Ramadan, because what tends to happen is, I think, because you're not eating, the focus is more internal. People tend not to do the things they normally do. The days are shorter. After you break your fast, you just kind of go to sleep. Not go to sleep. You don't usually go back to work. So they had this sheikh there who was a sultan there, who's one of the big planners for 2030, because Dubai's got this a vision 2030 going. And how he started now just making sure that he works right through the night, which was quite a mind shift. For me, the fact that, whenever we try to get hold of anybody during Ramadan, and at the end of the day,
come 4 o'clock now, everyone is shut up.
So it's amazing how the world is changing and people are adapting into due to the demands, I suppose, and the needs of the business world. So it's.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, you got to think of it as animals in hibernation, but the fact that they have decided that, yes, we've got this hibernation going, but let's up the game, let's up the ante. And I think I've taken a lot from that. Not that I hibernate as much, but, you find yourself at, as people who are in retail, it's come 5:30, you've got people in the shop, you want to break the fast, but you can't break the fast. And it's also given me the courage to push through.
No, it's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, a happy Eid. So we look forward to the rest of the year. And there's Mandela, part of the June 16th celebrations, there's a Mandela Children's Festival that is happening. And I'm taking the kids there. I think it's quite a...
Where's the festival going to be happening?
At Killarney Mall. It's on, actually. It starts tomorrow started yesterday up until Sunday. And if you want to go, please contact the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. You more than welcome to email them and see if you can go and show your support, get to learn your history. I think we tend to take things for granted because, we live in South Africa. We think we understand, but it's not always the case. I think I'm always amazed at how I learn so many new things about our heritage. And when I think of it as somebody like Nelson Mandela, one of the founders of our democracy, so I think it's quite a useful exercise for families. It's a time to also you get to spend time
and also an opportunity for the whole June 16th phenomenon to be unpacked properly for children. We live in a very cosmopolitan society that says that, listen, not throw away your traditions, but traditions now become less important as, Sikhulume Isilungu and trying to move on.
And the past must be the
past.
And
getting ahead, and the past must be the past. There's a lot of that in South Africa. But just to highlight, what people went through with regards to June 16th, the fact that, Mr. Mandela was able to come out of prison without any violence, I think it really is amazing.
Yeah, no, June 16th is important. And I think for people who think it's in the past and it should be in the past, you are more likely to repeat the mistakes of the past if you don't pay attention. I don't think it's only just to keep the past alive for the sake of it. It's really to learn to craft a better future for ourselves. So, I think it's important that we share these things. And on a commercial tip, it's always nice to
Have a little spike in sales.
have a
Huh?
little spike in sales, have a reason to sell messages. Fashion is, we got into fashion precisely because fashion was such a great communicator. More than anything, it's. I mean, people often ask me, why did you choose fashion? For me, it was really the fact that fashion is such a great vehicle. It wasn't so much about the fact that yes, sure, you make money from fashion, but I also think there are far easier ways of making money. It was the fact that you can preserve stories. It's really about telling stories. It's about the heritage that is in the clothes. It's about the fact that nothing is there by
chance.
By chance.
So you didn't get into fashion for the sake of
In the
fashion.
clothes. No, not just to make another pretty dress. I'm sure I say this every single day of my life because it's so true that, I was born into a world of beautiful clothes, and I'll die in a world of beautiful clothes. That's not really the point. That was not really my contribution. That's not why I went into fashion. But also, I went into fashion for my own healing. That's another thing, as
Right.
a way of crafting an identity. As a way of
Being a heritage designer.
being a heritage designer, wanting to tell a story, my story. I think everybody tells their own story in what you do. That's the nature of the creative work. I think we're all creative. Even engineers are creative. Everyone's creative, but somehow the creativity has been left too much in the hands of the creatives. Whereas
No, for sure. I mean, it was also part of
it's,
my...
doing solutions. Coming up with solutions, for me, I think that's creativity. If you're trying to build a bridge and you're sitting with this complex structure in front of you, you don't know how to build through. I think it really takes creativity to think out of the box and come up with solutions. So it's also the same thing that we try and we share with the young designers, that you need to think of yourself as a solutions provider in fashion. You are there to engineer solutions. You're not there to impose your own taste. We were at Proudly South Africa on Wednesday, and it was, you remember, the whole thing was to get the sector talking, the clothing sector, to understand where's this industry going. What can we look forward to? Everybody knows what the challenges are. But I think what is interesting about what is happening now in our industry is that there is that acknowledgement that the actual players in fashion need a seat at the table. The very people that are quick to come up with the challenges in the world also have the solutions.
Okay, so when you say some of the players, who are the big players?
Well, no. What's important is you had the different players along the value chain, from government to private business, right down to the seamstresses, the people that sew. We were invited as the Gauteng Fashion Council. We were invited to
Who invited you?
Proudly South Africa.
Right.
To come and participate as people who represent some of the designers. As you know, the Gauteng Fashion Council is a developmental project. It's really to help from the ground up, but it doesn't mean that it's only for your graduate or your emerging designer. We start from even your self-taught person right up to the big guys, the established, the big names. They're part of the council. There's a role for them to play. So one of the things that is happening, what is great about what's happening now, is that the industry is talking, and we as the council are now in a position to play the role, which is to establish all those linkages. So where you say to a designer, for instance, designers will call and say, how do I get funding? And when I say funding, because everyone wants funding, or how do I export, for instance? If I want to start exporting, where do I go to? So you're able to send them to a place like CEDA, by virtue of the fact that these are things we have gone through, experience in the industry for 17 years. You've been around the block. So, you can share these things, you can save somebody else a bit of time, and you point them in the right direction. And we're also able to open certain doors.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can we just hold that thought? My producer up here has given me the look. It's time to pay bills. You know, we can't do this for free. It's not a charity as much as, you know, the information is free and we love to flow with that information. So we'll catch you on the other side of this ad break. Stay tuned, keep it on lock, brandlive.co.za. This is the Fashion Blueprint.
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat.
The Dramatic Talk with myself, Bongani Drama. Bringing you insightful conversations on the Convo Corner, your latest celebrity news on Dramatainment, and your latest fashion news on Stash and Fade.
This is Bongani.
And myself, Rose Ratsaga, bringing you your latest news and sports updates.
Every Wednesdays, 2 to 3 p.m. Only on www.brandlive.co.za.
Okay, back on attack. You know, our show is so short that when these ads play, I become very, very jealous. You know what I mean? Because I love spending time with you. I love imparting the knowledge with you. I think that we built like a nice community around this fashion blueprint, and long may this continue. We're talking about the Proudly South African event, which was held this last Wednesday, bringing together all the fashion players. You know, because in South Africa there is so much happening, there's so much excitement, but nobody's actually talking to one another, you know. So we just wanted to say big up to Proudly South African for bringing us together. And the interesting thing was when the lady from, I think it was Edgar's, was speaking about cotton. That was like, wow. Cotton grown in South Africa.
What's amazing about that is I don't think people realize that we still grow so much cotton in our country. It's like the typical thing, if you were to ask a kid, where do you get your milk from? They'll tell you Pick n Pay. The first thing, they won't think of a cow. That you get milk from cows. They you know,
comes in a 2-liter bottle from Pick n Pay.
It comes from Pick n Pay. So it's the same thing with cotton. Same as I was saying, when we went to Durban with Adcon, we walked into, you remember when we went to Selrose, just a big factory outside Durban. Shocked that you have a room with almost 4,000 people producing clothes locally. I don't think half the customers at Edgar's know that their clothes most of it comes locally. We've got this impression that everything comes from China. So as you were saying, correctly saying, that there's so much happening, but everything is happening in silos. So it is great now that the industry is coming together. I think everyone has realized. It's also encouraging collaborations. I mean, to think that even the guy who took us around the factory was a former employee who now owns the factory. Some of the workers own the factory. They got together and bought the factory from Edcon. So all this exciting, and he was wearing shoes that were made right there in Pietermaritzburg.
Yeah, no. For me, the encouraging thing was that, like you said, especially like towards the late 90s, up until 2005, everyone just decided, okay, no more production in South Africa. Let's do everything overseas because it's cheaper and so on and so forth. But you know, the understanding that your players like Mr. Price are starting to produce locally, they are starting to have to, you know, the social responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to get everything made overseas, but what happens when we as South Africans do not have the mechanisms or the ability to produce anything for ourselves? And certain industries can't die.
I think on that point where you say, what happens when we can't produce things for ourselves, it's precisely the reason that you are finding that collaboration between our chain stores, where things that we don't think of. Well, I also thought it was quite important for like the young designers in the industry behind to actually see that there is that collaboration is actually the only way we're going to survive going forward. So it was nice to see Edgar's and Mr. Price collaborating on this cotton project. Same reason when we were at Selrose, in that room, in that factory, in that Adcon factory, they were actually training also for Mr. Price. They were training some people for Mr. Price, and it was quite interesting because you always think it's people compete and it ends there. But I think what we are learning more and more is that collaborations are the way of the future. As you know, we spoke. I think the last time we were talking about circular economies, that those kind of businesses that are based, where your business model is really based on collaboration. So you take 4 companies, you put them together, and what it means, obviously they continue to do things, but it's obviously a vertical integration. So your success, the success of one company means the success of the other. You are interdependent. You also share your resources. You can share your product. Shared facilities and shared infrastructure is also a big thing. You know what it's like when you have a bit of downtime in the machinery and you've got this excess capacity, but you don't have the time to quickly go out and sell it, because half of the time it's also not
beneficial to you.
Not beneficial
in terms
to
of
you.
the long term, but
long term, because now you will commit your capacity to somebody else and things change in your business. So imagine if you had a structure that is based on you being able to share those facilities as and when the need arises. So it's those things, and also the fact that as long as you are in business, I will be in business. For instance, if we come together, you selling me shopping bags, and I'm producing the clothes, and maybe somebody else is doing
the marketing and the
marketing. Somebody else would think that those kind of relationships should happen automatically, but they don't. Because first of all, creatives tend to work in isolation. It's not easy, and then you're an entrepreneur. You're chasing deadlines. You're the marketing manager. You're the finance director. You are everything.
The big piece of a small cake syndrome, basically.
Exactly. So you don't always have time to meet people in your industry, and you also want to get ahead. You think, let me get stronger before I go out there. But at the same time, you find that half the solutions lie in each other.
And when small businesses start to talk to one another, I think that's when the magic begins to happen.
It really does.
Because all our solutions, all our problems are the same, and the solutions, you'll find that if you tweak here and there, the solution should actually work for you.
And also, here's another thing. One of the things that I learned earlier in life was that whatever it is that you're trying to do, chances are somebody else has already done it out there. Find them and learn from them, use them as your teacher. You shouldn't have to struggle. One of the reasons also I joined the council. If you think of how when we started the business of ethnic luxury, it wasn't easy. Like I say, it wasn't like buying
an off-the-shelf solution.
A Nando's franchise where if you get stuck, or McDonald's, you can just call head office and they'll give you some sort of solution, like, this is how we've dealt it, or they can send you somebody down there, an operator, a cleaner, to come sort it out. I mean, by cleaner, I mean like a guy who takes care of problems, your sweeper kind of thing. And so we had to learn and come up with these solutions, like cleaning a restaurant while you're actually trying to serve customers, at the same time. It's not always that tidy, but it teaches you to be resourcewul. It teaches you to be innovative and inventive. And so, having gone through all of that, having learned all these things, it would all be in vain if we aren't able to share it. And the same, it's also the same thing that we try and we say to people that are helped by governments, that we need to capture those things. We need to understand where you got assistance, so that somebody else can also go and knock on your door, or knock on that same door. Because what people tend to do is the Minister of Small Business was complaining the other day, saying, people, the government will assist people, and when they're standing there talking, and they'll be thanking their mom, their dad, their cat, their aunt, and no one will say, and I'd like to thank the department of this and this that helped me
to get to New York, or help me open the shop,
or to go Budapest or wherever, Singapore. And now the thing is, if somebody doesn't have your mom and dad and your aunt and does it mean they're not gonna get to enjoy the success you do? Whereas if you just spoke and said, I got assisted here, then a person knows they can replicate that, because that's what we also need to do. We need to help each other. So if I go through the struggles, and somebody else shouldn't have to struggle the same way I did, it's a waste of time, and it's not beneficial to anyone.
I think as South Africans, we're getting better at that. I mean, there was a time where people just used to hoard the information to themselves, but a combination of the government departments actually opening up and doing more awareness campaigns has alleviated that, and young people are helping one another.
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah, I think obviously with the millennials, you're talking a very different kind of person
and different mindset as well.
Different mindset. It's a world of values. I think you see all around the world with all the changes from. I mean, I take it from people in America supporting Bernie Sanders over, if you're a Democrat, over Hillary Clinton. For me, it was just a sign that you would have looked at this guy and thought, but he's old. If you think of how the leaders of today are getting younger and younger, you look at that Prime Minister from Canada, he's like, 36. You look at Macron. And here they were in the States wanting to elect this guy, was almost in his 80s or 90s, and you know how ageism goes. You'd have thought that, like, oh no, this guy's like way over the hill. What can he possibly do? But he got much further than Hillary in certain aspects because people wanted a change, and people are now buying values more than
Past politics.
Yeah, and they're saying that, you know, millennials will make 60% of the millennials will make the decisions of where to buy or where to work based on how they feel about the company. Is it harming the environment? Is it good to its people? You know, those kind of things.
Hey, you know, it's about that time again. We've just had a wonderful half an hour. Apiwa has given me that look again. We need to move on. It's the next show. All I'm going to say to young people is that let's raise our fists in the air. Tomorrow is June 16th. Let's celebrate our wonderful country.
And support your local business.
Yep, and support your local business, I think. And more importantly, in the words of Bob Marley, get up, stand up, and never ever give up the fight.